Kosy gasped in shock as she entered her bedroom. On top of her bed lay a red silky nightgown stained with blood, and the white bedsheet beneath it was stained dark crimson, as if someone had bled out right there. Her eyes widened in terror when she looked up at the mirror beside her bed and saw some inscriptions scrawled in what seemed like fresh blood. "Your end is near," the words read. Kosy stumbled backwards, tripping over her own feet. She fell hard on the floor, her eyes fixed on the nightgown. Where did it come from? And whose blood was it? Kosy cast her mind back to the events of the past few months. She had been having an affair with a married man named Ade. Ade was wealthy and charming, and Kosy had been swept off her feet. But 6 months into their secret affair, Ade's wife, Ekaete, caught them red-handed in the act of adultery. That fateful day, Ekaete had just returned from visiting her sick mother in the hospital, hoping to seek solace in the arms of her husband, but what she saw froze her in place. Kosy was dressed in Ekaete's short red silky nightgown, while Ade was making out with her on their matrimonial bed. Ekaete rushed over to Kosy to beat her black and blue, but Ade shielded her, stopping Ekaete from laying her hands on his beautiful mistress. Ekaete was infuriated, so she threatened to expose Kosy to her family members and friends if she did not stop having an affair with her husband. Kosy laughed it off, thinking that Ekaete was only acting as a jealous wife should. But now, as she stared at the bloodstained nightgown, she realized that Ekaete's threat was not a bluff. The moment she recognized that the red silky nightgown belonged to Ekaete, Kosy knew that she had indeed fallen on the bad side of a Calabar woman. As days went by, Kosy began to experience strange occurrences. She would find strange symbols etched into the walls of her bedroom, and her clothes went missing. She started to feel like she was being watched in the house, and the red silky nightgown seemed to be the source of the haunting. One night, Kosy woke up to see the red nightgown floating above her head. The bloody inscriptions on the mirror were glowing in the dark. She screamed, but her voice was hoarse and barely audible. Suddenly, the lights flickered and the room plunged into darkness. Kosy heard footsteps, heavy and deliberate, coming from the corner of the bedroom. She tried to run, but her legs were frozen as fear gripped her tightly. The footsteps stopped right beside her bed, and a voice whispered in her ear, "You reap what you sowed, Kosy." Kosy's eyes snapped open, and she found herself in bed, gasping for air. It was just a dream, she told herself, but as she looked around the room, she saw the red silky nightgown lying on top of her bed, the bloody inscriptions on the mirror still visible. Kosy blacked out, waking up the next morning feeling overwhelmed with anxiety. As days went by, Kosy became more and more entangled in her own web of deceit. She bluntly refused to end the affair with Ade. Despite the haunting and occasional warnings from Ekaete, Kosy turned a blind eye and continued to live a life as one who had no moral rectitude. The more her conscience died, the more the nightgown was relentless, showing up wherever she went in the confines of her house. It appeared to Kosy every night, the bloody inscriptions on the mirror growing more menacing with each passing day. Kosy tried to ignore it, but unfortunately, she couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. One fateful night, Kosy woke up and found out that the red nightgown was wrapped around her mouth, the bloody inscriptions on the mirror glowing with an otherworldly light. She tried to scream, but her voice was muffled by the nightgown, and as she struggled to breathe and free herself from the gag in her mouth, Kosy felt a cold hand grasp her ankle, pulling her down into the darkness. She tried to kick free, but the grip was overpowering, holding her down until she couldn't breathe no more. The next morning, Kosy's body was found on the floor of her bedroom, lifeless. A pool of spilled red wine was beside her corpse, and the bloody inscriptions on the mirror were gone. However, the message was clear. Kosy had reaped what she sowed. The police investigation concluded that Kosy's death was as a result of her own reckless and delusional behavior, but those who knew about the lifestyle she lived whispered that she had been haunted by her own guilt and reaped the consequences of her actions. The red silky nightgown was never found, but some say that on certain nights you can still see it hovering above Kosy's grave, a reminder of the deadly price she paid for her unrepentant heart. Dear viewers, I hope you enjoyed this story. The most salient moral lesson to be learned from the story is that we should be careful of our actions and how we treat others, because in the end, we reap what we sow. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and to turn on the notification bell so that you can be notified whenever we post new videos. I'm Jane of Moonlight Tales by Jenny, and I look forward to engaging with you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.